All right, welcome back. We're going to get you totally exam ready today by breaking down a really core part of any government, the executive branch. So, who are the people who actually run a country? Let's dive in and find out.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? When you think about this massive, complex machine that is a country, who's really in the driver's seat? Well, the answer starts when you understand that there are basically three main engines that make the whole thing go.
Yeah, you can think of it like this. Every government has these three essential parts. You've got the legislature, they're the ones who make the laws. Then you have the judiciary, they interpret the laws. And the executive, well, they're the ones who actually put all those laws and policies into action. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on today.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down what the executive actually is. Then, we'll check out how different countries set things up. After that, we'll zoom in on India's parliamentary system. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the key points you absolutely need to know for your exams.
Okay, let's get right into it. Part 1. What exactly is the executive branch? When we talk about the executive, what do we really mean? Who are these people in charge of making things happen?
Okay, here's the simplest way to think about it. If the legislature is like a team of architects designing the blueprints for a building, the executive is the construction crew that actually builds the thing. They're the ones on the ground every single day, implementing the laws and carrying out the policies. But here's something that's absolutely crucial to get right for your exams. The executive isn't just one monolithic group. Nope, it's actually split in two. First, you've got the political executive. These are your elected leaders, the ministers and heads of government who come and go with elections. You can think of them as the ship's captain, setting the course. Then you have the permanent executive. These are the civil servants, the long-term government employees who handle the day-to-day administration. They're like the skilled crew that keeps the ship's engine running smoothly, no matter who the captain is. All right, part 2. Let's talk about the different types of executive systems out there. Now that we know what the executive branch is, let's go on a quick world tour to see how it's actually organized. Because believe me, not every country does it the same way. So you might look at the President of the USA, the Queen of England, and the Prime Minister of India and think, hey, they're all the top boss, right? Well, not exactly. The answer is a big no. Their actual roles, their powers, how they interact with the rest of the government, it's all totally different, and it all boils down to the specific system they're working in. This table right here breaks it all down beautifully. You've got three main systems, but I want you to look really closely at that last column, accountability. This is the key. See, in a presidential system, the president is not accountable to the legislature, but in a parliamentary system, the prime minister is. And that one little difference, who has to answer to whom, it changes the entire power dynamic. It's everything. So take the presidential system, like you see in the US or Brazil. It's kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. The president is both the head of state, the symbolic figurehead, and the head of government, the person actually running the show. All that executive power is concentrated in one person, who's usually elected directly by the people.
Now, flip that around. In a parliamentary system, the power is split. You often have a ceremonial head of state. Think of the Queen in the UK, or the President here in India. They are the symbol of the nation. But the real day-to-day executive power, the tough job of actually running the government, that belongs to the Prime Minister.
And then, of course, there's the hybrid model, the semi-presidential system. You see this in places like France and Sri Lanka. This system really tries to take the best of both worlds. So you get a directly elected president who acts as head of state, but you also have a prime minister who is the head of government and still has to answer to the legislature.
Okay, moving on to our big case study, India's parliamentary executive. Let's take all this theory and see how it works in the real world. So why? Why did India, the largest democracy on the planet, go with the parliamentary system?
This was one of the single most important decisions the makers of the Constitution made. It wasn't a random choice, not at all. It was a decision that was deeply connected to India's own history and what they hoped to achieve as a brand new nation.
So the choice really boiled down to a few key things. For one, India's leaders already had some experience with the parliamentary model from the British era. But, and this is the big one, they were also really worried about putting too much power into the hands of just one person. They thought a presidential system could lead to what they called a personality cult. And for a new, incredibly diverse country, that was a huge risk. So instead, they chose a system that would force the government to be sensitive and accountable directly to the people's elected representatives.
And what you see today is the direct result of that decision.
It's the classic setup for a parliamentary republic. The president is the formal, ceremonial head of state. Meanwhile, the prime minister, who has the support of the majority in parliament, is the one with the real executive power, the head of government.
All right, we're in the home stretch. Part 4, your key exam takeaways. We've gone through a lot, so let's boil it all down to the absolute must-know facts.
If you can lock these 4 points in your head, you'll have a rock-solid foundation. 1. The executive's main job is to implement laws. 2. It's split into 2 types, political and permanent. 3. The 3 big systems, parliamentary, presidential, and semi-presidential. And 4. India chose the parliamentary system for one main reason, accountability.
So, if this explainer on the executive helped you out, do us a huge favor and like, share, and subscribe to the A1 Institute channel. We'd love to hear from you, so drop a comment below and let us know what you want us to tackle next. Thanks for tuning in, and all the best with your exams.